Hey everybody, welcome to what's the first interview on our new second channel, Dead Meat Presents, where we're going to be interviewing the people who made Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. We have director Rhys Frake-Waterfield. Hey Rhys, how's it going?
Hello. Yeah, good, thanks.
Hello. Writer Matt Leslie. Hey Matt.
Hey guys, everybody.
And lead actor and producer, that's right, Scott Jeffrey, Scott Chambers, both names, juggling the names.
Hello, how are you?
Hey man, hey, thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I just saw the movie last night, like I was telling you, in theaters for it had a 3-day theatrical run, is that right?
Yeah, so it was there was one showing, but it was in like 1,500 cinemas on the 26th, 27th, and 28th. But we're currently talking to some cinema bookers because yeah, good reception and such. So we're hoping it gets extended.
The thing I saw was through, what was it, Fathom events, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that's right. Yeah.
so how'd you swing that? Because my association with Fathom is like the opera. And so this was a little bit different than the usual Fathom event at theaters.
Yeah, I think they're maybe branching out into a little bit more kind of smaller theatrical showings. So, for example, me and Scott went to Mexico last year, and they love like indie horror. They show so much indie horror with budgets ranging from like 50K all the way up to your 10, 30 million level films. And yeah, they all have theatrical running. So I guess this is like maybe a way of introducing that into the US.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of budgets, so the first film, correct me if I'm wrong, had 100,000 about as the budget, or
No.
no?
So there's loads of different numbers which have gone online.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just break it down. It's the theatrical run's going, so I'll just be completely open. The first film, the principal photography was £20,000. So that's like 25, 30K US dollars. We had some top up money to do some like pickups and reshoots, but ultimately ended about 50K dollars, I'd say. Well, not, yeah, $50,000. And then with the sequel, there's a number floating around on all of these websites that we had a million. We didn't have a million. We had about 500K US dollars for that. So significantly improved, like a much higher level, but it's still kind of tough.
Well, I mean, congratulations for getting that. It's such an increased budget. Still 10 times what you had to
Yeah,
work with for
exactly.
the original. I mean, like I always say on my channel, making a movie is so impressive no matter what the budget. Just like getting it done is so impressive. And Rhys, you've made a lot of them, especially recently. Like, do you ever sleep? I feel like your filmography is so long. How do you have the time to do all this?
Well, that was actually like something which impacted me on the first film. So myself and Scott, we're like the director, producer, and lead actor producer on Winnie 2. But not last year, the year before that, when we made Winnie 1, we made like 30 or 40 films in a year because we had a bit of a conveyor belt process. So it was like we'd use a lot of the same actors, a lot of the same locations, and we were churning out like 3 or 4 films a month. A lot of that is like it's like the equivalent of like a crash course in with driving. It's just you just go relentlessly, go 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 go. Don't have days off. You learn a load in 1 or 2 years, and now with Winnie 2, we were like, okay, let's slow down and let's try and make something really really solid here.
Yeah, which is actually really crazy too, because it's like when I finished the script and I sort of handed it off to these guys in the world that I kind of come from, because I'm not part of what they've been doing. This is like a $5 million script, so I handed it off and I was like, I have no clue how they're going to do this. But the truth is, when they've made so many movies the way they have, they know every trick of the trade. They can pull all kinds of favors. They know how to make things happen. So it's really been an impressive thing to watch because I honestly, I never thought that it would turn out this good. It was like kind of shocking when I saw the first cut.
Yeah, so Matt, you are new to you're not part of the Jagged Edge machine, right? You wrote Summer of '84 or co-wrote
Yeah,
it, correct?
I wrote and produced it. Yeah,
Oh yeah, excellent film. I got a chance to see that. I love Rich Sommer, so always nice to see him in things.
He's such a good guy too, just the best.
So how did you get involved in writing the sequel to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? Did you see the first movie? Did they contact you? Like, are you just a hardcore Pooh fan?
No. So I hadn't seen the first film, and the composer of Winnie the Pooh Part One, I had been talking to about being a composer for this movie that I was developing with my writing partner. And so out of the blue, Andy called me. His name's Andrew Scott Bell.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought back Andrew Scott Bell because his work in the first film was so great, and to hear his music again,
He's awesome.
yeah, it's very
Yeah,
good.
it's really good.
Super, super talented.
Yeah, really giving it his all. And do you know if he used another what was it, a violin that he had kept in a beehive?
Andrew
Yeah.
loves finding these like little fun ways of recording sounds. He's in this. He had like a kind of, I think it's like a fake bear skull, and he decided
Yep.
to retrofit that into an instrument.
That's
which I
awesome.
don't think he's released yet. But also he's got these like tubings to do war cries for Tigger, because we wanted to give Tigger a kind of tribal vibe. So when you hear his score come on screen, there's lots of like drums, like like a trumpety kind of sounds, just to differentiate him to the scenes with like Owl and Pooh.
That's fun. That's great.
Andy called me and he was just like, "Hey, listen, these guys are looking for a writer for the sequel to Winnie the Pooh." So basically, what I did is I got on the phone with Rhys, and he was like, "Check out the first film." So I watched the first film, and then we sort of had a really sober conversation about what he liked and didn't like about the first one. And I tweeted about this kind of recently, that like I saw all the flaws of the first one. I saw the potential, but I also saw what was the shortcomings of it, and we just had like a really honest conversation. Rhys had really spent his time taking all the information in from the first film, like feedback from fans and just people from all these different websites doing polls, because he really was like, I just want to make a film that people are going to love. It's just like for the people. And I love that approach. And so he kind of sold me on like what him and Scott were trying to do. He told me Scott was going to star, which I thought was awesome. I think his performance in this film was amazing. And it was just kind of, we were off to the races. We just started going, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what I love about your script is that so my wife and I saw the movie together last night. She did not catch the first one. That was just me by myself. So she was like, do I need to have seen the first one? I was like, probably not. I think we'll be okay. And throughout the movie, she keeps leaning over and asking some questions about what's going on. And a lot of the time I'm like, I don't know. That wasn't like pertinent to the first one. But by the end of the movie, all of her questions were answered. And so like when we were leaving the theater, she was like, I gotta hand it to that script. Every question that I leaned over and asked eventually got answered. So,
all right, well, that's good. That's positive. I'll take that. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rhys having you like took in this feedback, and it shows. It seems like you were able to confront the criticisms of the first film and really pivot. And obviously, the sequel is getting a much better reception than the first movie. So what kind of things specifically did you see and want to address? And was there anything that people were saying that you just disagreed with and were like, no, I think we have this right, so I'm just going to focus on these other things?
So essentially, with the first film, it's like I knew it wasn't near where the potential or not, it didn't really fulfill its full potential, just because I had so much stuff going on. Honestly, it's like you're just exhausted, and I was going from project to project. And then when it released, I basically, for about 4 months, I essentially got like shat on by the world, because everyone critiquing it from all directions. Everyone was like DMing me like death threats. We bloody won like 5 Razzies and all this. I was just getting swamped with like negativity and stuff. But yeah, loads of bits I knew had to change like from the outset. Like we knew had to go more serious. I knew I needed prosthetics and the creatures, because that was more of a budgetary thing at the start, to be completely honest. We just had none. I knew the kills needed to go up. So yeah, we were just like brainstorming loads of different ideas. More characters obviously had to come in. Whenever you do one of these, it's like more kills, more characters. We kind of shortened it down to like Owl and Tigger. Death count had to go up. So yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
It was also really cool to hear that he wanted to focus on story too, because that was the big one for me. Is like the first one felt like it was lacking in that. And like he said, he wrote the Rhys, what did you write the script in like 5 days?
3 or
like
4
you were
days,
just
yeah.
It
And that was
like,
literally, I directed a film, and then I came off it, and that week after coming off it, I was writing that script for like 4 days in order to produce it in literally and then direct it in 3 weeks. So it was just relentless. So I felt like I was kind of burnt out, if I'm completely honest. Yeah. Whereas with this one, I just had significantly more time to like sit down and really think.
Yeah. So that was really important. It's just focusing on character, mythology, making sure that there's cool backstory there, that there's sort of things that can be unearthed and that sort of lead to the next film.
Yeah. And when was the script written for the sequel?
The first one released mid-February. I was kind of collating information for about 2 months then. And then me and Matt were kind of created a very detailed treatment, like a 20-page treatment of all of the kind of different scenes we wanted and how they'd all connect and such over the next...
What month was that?
Maybe 1 or 2 months we were doing that. That must have been like May. And then I guess it was around June or July when we had the script ready. And then it just went into like producing and then on set.
You're right. It was September, I think, that we like early September.
Because there are some similarities that I'm sure people will note with Five Nights at Freddy's, which came out last year with a backstory.
Yeah,
that sounds like it's coincidental then.
absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
Because I literally,
that's
I
been
was in the
killing.
cinema.
I bet, man.
I was in the cinema, sat there watching it, and I've literally got messages to Matt on my phone, and I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah.
Because you know that
That's the
people aren't
worst.
going to understand the timeline of these movies. So I'm sure there will be some people who are like, oh, this just ripped off Five Nights. So let me try to help dispel that notion that sometimes those coincidences happen and you just happen to get
Yeah.
the same backstory with a missing younger brother going on. Like, that happens.
With Five Nights at Freddy's, I was literally, when I saw the whole kid backstory, and I was like, oh no. In the cinema, I was messaging Matt and saying, I hope they don't go down the route we've gone down, which is like a genetic scientist changing them. I was thinking, those kids could be inside these like animal outfits. And then I was thinking, fuck, like it's just our whole story then. But then they went down this like ghostly supernatural route, and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
good.
slightly diverges, thankfully.
And Rhys,
it's
you'd
only got
already
one element.
shot it, right? You'd already shot it by then.
Yeah, we shot it in kind of September time, I think. And I think Five Nights was out was it like October or something? When that
sounds
came
right.
out?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so
Spooky
it'd
season.
already been filmed, literally editing it and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I sat there in the cinema, I was shitting it.
Yeah, no going back at that point.
Yeah.
Scott, I want to get you in here because honestly, your performance is like shockingly good. You go into these movies and you expect like fun kills and good creatures, but you don't always expect like really solid acting. But your acting is fucking great, man.
Oh, you're really nice. Thank you.
It really carries the film and makes it a vehicle worth riding in for all those kills, because it's such a sincere and genuine performance. It's never treating the material as anything less than like a serious film. My wife and I were both really impressed by it. And was this your first time in such a big role? I'm not too familiar with the entire filmography that you guys do. I know you produce a lot. Have you acted before?
Yeah, so I've been acting actually before producing, and
Okay.
that's kind of like why I started producing, because I was getting quite depressed by like all the rounds of auditions and stuff, and just feeling like it was a bit like hopeless to get into the industry. So then I started making my own films in between. But yeah, I've got a film called Dr. Jekyll coming out with Eddie Izzard. It's by Hammer Horror, and that comes out US, I think, like in a month or something. Yeah, it wasn't my first one, but with this, I wanted to make him really like, it's important for me to try and make him smile when possible, or try and make him extremely hopeful. Because otherwise, this massacre happened a year ago and it could just be a really bleak performance, like from start to finish. So it's really important for me to kind of bring that vulnerability in and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, when Rhys asked me to do the role, I was really, really intimidated because a couple of things. Number one, going into something where there is so much hate. Like, obviously, I was on the ride with Rhys, but obviously Rhys was front and center of the first one. And I was very intimidated because just the actors got so much hate and just horrible messages and stuff. And I was kind of like, with my acting, like I really, really, really try. So yeah, then when Rhys said, do you want to play Christopher? I was a bit intimidated because of all of this stuff, like producing it. And obviously on these budgets, you wear a lot of hats. And like, for example, 2 days before the shoot started, our production designer / costume designer pulled out. And obviously, when people pull out or something, it's me or Rhys have to do it. And Rhys was really stressing out. He was like ordering all this like hospital equipment, because the hospital we filmed in it was empty. So we had to fill that with staff, and it was just on us with 3 days work. And then my big thing that I had to do was the costumes. So I had to do all the costumes of every single person in the film. And obviously the rave scene was intense, and I didn't really understand female bodies because, with guys, you can just go, are you a small, medium or large?
Oh, yeah.
And then I was going to the girls and I was going, are you a small, medium, large? And they were like, well, and I was like, oh, fuck. And then that was really hard. Yeah, boobs are involved, and it was so difficult. And I was just struggling. And then when we got to day one of filming, I was so ill, like not from flu, but from stress. And then my day one was actually in the therapy session. And the lady that I was with, she's called Teresa, the actress, and she's really, really nice and stuff. But I was like, I'm sorry, like I'm so ill. And I kept falling asleep on my little chair. And then Rhys and all them were like, Scott, can you wake up? You've got to frame up. And I was like, I'm so rough.
You've got to act.
Yeah, I've got to act.
Oh, God, that sounds miserable. And then, especially for that to be your first day, it's not like you're going to get chances to rest during production to heal yourself and get better. But did you eventually just recover on your own for the duration of the shoot?
I recovered on my own, but then Rhys obviously because again these shoots like when it's getting put out there, like we had 1 million, it's like it's so not accurate. Like Rhys has even inflated it. It's actually $412,000 we had, and I remember like Rhys throwing up on set out of stress. Like physically threw up.
Oh God.
And I say that because I'm proud of him, because he tries so friggin' hard, and I feel like he took a lot of stress going into this, and there was a lot of things on the day, a lot of areas letting him down or being difficult or problematic. And that guy, I really mean it. Like, I love Rhys, and I feel like he deserves, on the next one, he truly deserves $1 million, because he's worked his ass off for this. So yeah, it went from me to him.
Thanks. That's just a byproduct of like indie micro horror, like micro budget horror. Is you have to wear multiple hats. People have to get involved with so many different areas, like producing and directing. So you have to just juggle around and try and make the best film you possibly can on the budget you're given.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I reviewed the first film, wasn't my thing, but I just want to apologize for any like death threats or shit that you guys get, because like that's never called for. It's so dumb that people don't understand that you can dislike something without taking it personally or like attacking the people who made it. That's insane to me that people would do
No, you
that.
don't have to apologize for like not liking the first film or anything like that. Everyone has opinions. Like, I'm completely open to like criticism about it. Like, every film's not for everyone. And I actually really welcome it, because I just want to like get better and better. So when people are saying, they didn't like these aspects and stuff, like, it's really good to hear that. Otherwise, like, burying your head in the sand and forget and just believing your films is perfect, you'll never like develop, and it will never get better and better. And that's what we want to do. So
yeah.
I think it's also kind of crazy. So what's frustrating about the first one is I think there's this belief that was Rhys's potential. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of filmmaker that he is. And I feel like that's kind of put a little, I don't want to speak for Rhys, but it feels like maybe there's a bit of a chip on his shoulder to prove that like that's not true, because that's like under the worst of circumstances with very little money, whatever. And again, not to make excuses, but it's like they didn't realize it was going to blow up. This one was a lot more like a concerted effort with a better budget and intentionality behind it. And I think it shows. So,
thanks. There was a lot of weight going into number 2, because it was a do or die. It's like, if this isn't good, I've got to get a job somewhere else.
And obviously you're very ambitious when it comes to these properties, seeing as there are, I believe, 4 other films, including the big team up at the end. How certain are those movies? Like, are they dependent on how this sequel does, or are they just happening regardless?
They're happening regardless. Like, we're gonna keep going and keep doing it, because we know like they're just gonna get better and better. So like, for example, when we go into Winnie 3 compared to Winnie 2, is like, I know where that film can go. But even though it sounds like 4 a year, it's, from what me and Scott were used to prior to this, that's still like a small amount. So we know we can still dedicate a lot of time towards them, and we can make them really good.
And you're also not directing them all too, right? Like,
that's something which is important, is like, I didn't want to direct all 4 of these, because ultimately they won't be good. Like, you can't direct a film every 2 months and be as invested in the script and all of the different areas, and making sure like all these different components like SFX is going really, really well and stuff. So that's why Scott's directing Peter Pan's Devil in Nightmare. We brought in someone called Dan Allen for Bambi, and we believe in all of them as directors.
And Pinocchio, I saw, was in like the end credits of Winnie-the-Pooh 2, right? Were there other references in that movie? Because I saw something about a deer, I think, or like a zombie deer. Was that a Bambi the Reckoning little nod?
Yeah, there's loads of in the edit, I was trying to sprinkle in loads of different Easter eggs and how things are going to all kind of like interlinked. So there's like a bigger, grander picture from Pooh 2. With Pinocchio, there's not a lot which is inherently linked with that one, but Bambi, there's some little moments, if you spot them, which is linking to the story of Bambi. And at the start, you can see a kind of map reminiscent of the original kind of Winnie the Pooh maps in the 1926 book, where he's got like the little map, you see it all disappearing. There's little clues on that, which will link towards like Winnie 3. So kind of like one of them being the Heffalumps. You see this kind of little zone, the Heffalump zone, and you see a clip at the end on what they could look like. They're like our early ideas on how these can all get integrated.
Yeah.
So there's lots of Easter eggs just scattered around the film. Yeah. And like some of the characters are going to lead into some of the other ones. So like Scott has quite a pivotal character in Neville and Nightmare, which Scott's directing, was one of the characters in Winnie 2.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
Yeah.
I really like the rave scene. I think that's kind of the standout sequence that a lot of people are talking about, probably because of all the fun kills that are going on in it, and the very Freddy Krueger-esque Tigger in there. I'm assuming that was all intentional with the nails. He's basically killing them in a boiler room and calling everyone a bitch. So, yeah, you got Freddy Tigger there.
Yeah, I kind of really wanted, with these characters, I wanted to sprinkle in some of the horror greats on them, more of as a homage, because we love 80s horror. So with like Pooh, he's a bit like Jason and Michael Myers. Like he's like the brute who just gets in, the juggernaut, smashes and gets out. Whereas Tigger has this more sadistic side to him. And like Owl is maybe like Pinhead, and
Yes.
Piglet is a bit of like Leatherface in him. Tigger, the idea is because he's been caged up for so long, because he's like the wild card of the group, hence the straitjacket he wears. He's very adrenaline fueled. That's why when he's in that warehouse and you see him, this is something Freddy does, but he has like a shaking effect with him, and his like hands shaking, his mouth shaking. It's like he's pent up on like 20 Red Bulls, ready to just slash some girls and guys up.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler, I guess, for anyone watching this who hasn't seen the sequel yet, but I was disappointed to see Piglet go so fast because I really liked his redesign. Like, just the size of him and the look of his head. I was really invested in seeing a lot more Piglet, and then you blow his head off, like, right away. And I was like, no, come on! And it's funny because now that you say he's very Leatherface-esque, I can definitely see that, and I love Leatherface, so it makes sense that I was initially drawn towards him, and then you went and killed him. It seems as though he'll be back, judging by the ending, with the regenerative honey, perhaps, or some other force at bay. But yeah, I was a little disappointed to see him go so fast.
There's a fun thing with the honey. It's actually used for its antibiotic properties in like medicine. So like doctors actually do use it. So that's the idea with the honey, is like, because they're these kind of hybrid DNA. They're like, their DNA's been mixed with like animal DNA, and there's little hints early on in the film which mention about their regenerative capabilities when he's listening to the tape recorder. And the idea of the honey is it's like a protective coating while that regenerative element kind of gets underway, and it's going to allow for some amazing redesigns of the characters, because we want to keep evolving them as the films go on, and there's like a link. So when we go into Pooh 3 compared to Pooh 2, you know, Pooh's had half his face blown, like cut off. So it's like, sorry, spoiler.
Yeah.
He's had half his face cut off. So it's like, we can do something really cool there, like rebuild it, and maybe it's not perfect. Me and Matt were talking the other day, like I think its head's blown off, and maybe there's like an effect where when his head comes back, it's not a perfect replica. Like cells, when cells regenerate, they slowly kind of degrade over time, hence what aging is. And we're thinking we could do something similar to that with Piglet. So maybe he grows back and his eyes are a bit wonky, and they're changing as he goes on, and it'll keep it like fresh and fun.
Yeah, and for Pooh's death, I was very pleased to see right before his head gets blown off that he does in fact say, "Oh bother," this time through. I was really excited about that, because I had wanted it in the first movie, and then it happens in this time. I was like, thank you. That's what I wanted. How did you get Simon Callow involved? He's obviously been in a lot of really big productions and is a very well-established actor. And now he's here being like the villain of the Winnie-the-Pooh sequel and giving it his all.
So he was in a film before with Scott. Scott was
cool.
in Dr. Jekyll. So they acted opposite each other. So they have a little bit of kind of existing history. And then we sent the script over to his agent, and he really loved the character. And he was really into it. He complimented Matt. He was saying how well he thinks it's written. And he was he really liked it. So yeah.
All right.
So then yeah, he just jumped on board. And honestly, he's amazing to work with. Like, he's genuinely such a nice person. So unfortunately, he can't come back because something which happened, but I wish he could.
Just drizzle some honey on him. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
How many days on set did he have?
1 day. So super intense. Like, our whole thing, you can see how many locations we're moving around. So his whole stuff was in 1 day. The therapy stuff was all in 1 day.
The voiceover.
Like all of those scenes, yeah.
Him
the
in the
voiceover
van.
for his narration. We finished his scene and it was like 5 a.m. And then I kind of cheekily grabbed him. I went, "Oh, Simon, we just need to get some voiceover. Come downstairs, quick. But don't do it in the Scottish accent this time. Do it in like a kind of traditional British accent." And he was like, is this Cavendish? And I went, yeah. His accent's changed. And then he done the opening narration. And then halfway through, he realised, he went, oh, it's fine. Like, he gets it. So.
Oh, okay. The locations of the movie, I always fall in love with. The house that Christopher Robin has just seems like such a cozy little place. And you mentioned, you know, partially because you were ill, Scott, but you did mention falling asleep in the therapist's place. That therapist's office, I would love to take a nap in
So
there. All
cozy.
those books, like, where did you guys find that? It's so cozy.
We just use like location websites, so that was a big thing. And then where we were running out of budget, we used Airbnb. So actually, Christopher Robin's house is off Airbnb, and some of the crew and cast slept in there as well, for accommodation purposes. But yeah, the therapy place was in London off a film location website. So yeah.
And with Christopher Robin's house, actually, that wasn't the first choice. We literally had A.A. Milner's house, like his original house. We were gonna film there, and we were trying to negotiate and talk to them, but then they were like 50-50, and then I think they saw what
they wasted a lot of time, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were like, no. I was like,
we had to go down a different route, but we wanted to keep it like a traditional kind of like Englishy vibe. So it's got this like cottagey feel to it, and it feels really rural, and there's a bit of world building where we're trying to like create this town of Ashdown. And it's called that because a lot of Winnie the Pooh is based around Ashdown Forest. So we thought Ashdown is quite a nice name for it. And imagine it being on kind of the edge of the forest, and all these houses are in this community.
Yeah, I love the creation of the town, and like you get the overhead shot to see the size of it. It's kind of a quaint little town. And was the exteriors of Christopher Robin's house, was it the same house, exterior and interior?
Yeah, we
nice.
It's very budget intensive to change exteriors with different interiors, because obviously you need to do a complete move every time.
Sure.
So for us, it's just a budget saving process of just filming both, film the exterior, then go inside and film all of it. So yeah, it was all the same.
Any other plans while you're over here? Have you been here before, I'm assuming?
We did come here last year.
Okay.
But most of it was just work for us, so we haven't really experienced LA properly. So we're going to do a bit more of like the touristy bits now, maybe walk to the Hollywood sign. We want to go see like Venice Beach. Like we went round to Rodeo Drive, and then suddenly Scott's perception of LA changed. This is amazing.
It was so pretty. You can put your camera anywhere. It just looks amazing.
I'm glad you guys still like it here, and we definitely want to make it back over to the UK, to your side of the pond, as it were, where that's where you're going to continue making the films, right, over there?
Yeah, well, if you come and we're making Pooniverse, you can die in it. So, because we want to kill about 300 people, so why don't you come and get killed? We can have a bunch of them all tear your limbs off and your head off and stuff. It'll be fun.
That'd be so cool. I've done the head casting process before, so I've been through it. I know what it takes. I can do it, and yeah, I would love to be torn asunder by.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, go on.
But bloody Scott, like he keeps on upping these numbers.
So
he went 100, and I was like, fuck, I've got to do that. And I was like, he just said 300.
That's like two kills a minute.
Before seeing the movie, I was seeing a lot of tweets at me being like, oh, have fun with the rave scene. So the entire time in the theater, I'm just sitting there like, all right, and they're talking about the rave too. It's like the fucking fireworks factory in Simpsons. Yeah. I'm just like, all right, when are we going to get to this thing? And sure enough, there's just like flashing lights and piles of bodies. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be such a headache for me later on. But
have fun, James.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. It was great talking to you guys. Congratulations on getting another movie made and the success that it's having. I see so many people saying that they had such a great time with it, and obviously a lot more positive reaction than the first one. So I hope that continues to happen with all these subsequent releases, and I'm really wishing the best for you guys. I'm truly impressed by your work ethic and ambition. I can't imagine the nonstop work you're doing. I hope you get a chance to rest at some point.
Oh, thanks, James. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
Thanks,
so sweet.
James.
Great talking to you guys. And if you haven't seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, go check it out and see all those kills that I'm going to have to eventually count. Oh, wait, actually, yeah, before we go, real fast, do you guys have a favorite kill, since there are so many in this movie?
I have a favorite, which no one else has said it, but I love the one where there's a character who we know called Becky, and she kind of steps out from this grating, and you only see her for like 3 seconds, and straight away she's grabbed and punched in the face. I just really liked it because how like bloody sudden it was. Like normally when a character comes on screen like that, you've got at least 10 seconds, 15 seconds. This was like someone new, bang, punch in the face, and then we just move on.
Scott, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, mine, it was actually made up on the day because me and Rhys, sometimes we see stuff and we go, oh, that'd be cool. And it's the one where the girl is under the grating and Tigger is underneath. And it was our little wink at House of Wax with the stabbing with Paris Hilton. Yeah, and then he grabs the dog collar and then she's held in place and stabbing her. So I thought
that moment's really good when he's holding her down by the necklace and stabbing her.
Yeah, she's fucked.
Matt, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I really enjoyed writing the scene where Owl kills the guy who's getting out of the shower, and like, you know, he sees all the vomit pellets on the ground, and he's like, "What the fuck am I looking?" And he comes out on the patio, and then there's Owl, and he vomits on him. It's like I just love that's so specific to Owl. I dug that a lot.
Owl's got a really fun part of his character where he likes to monologue to people, and I just love that. I love the fact that he'll monologue to you before he stabs you in the eyes.
And anytime I see like steaming bile melting someone's flesh, I'm a fan. I always like that. I think my personal favorite though was after Tigger removed that girl's eyes and she's like crawling and then she falls down the hatch, and I don't know if you guys just like dropped a dummy or what, but the way that body just like hits that railing and bounces off got like an audible reaction out of me in the theater. I was like, oh yeah, and, like it was like a little, it was more simple than some of the other ones, but just the visual of it and the sound effect was just like doink. It was so great.
That's a good one.
Well, again, thanks a lot for your time, guys. I hope you're having a good time here, and I'm sure we'll talk again in the future.
Awesome.
Oh, thanks so much.
Cool, cheers.